in my office. Actually, my mom was the first person to text me about the active shooter. She was asking, was I okay? There's an active shooter like on Park, and then she texted me the address, and I was like, oh my God, that's like right next door to my building.
An eyewitness to last night's deadly shooting in New York, where a gunman shot and killed 4 people before turning the gun on himself. The shooter is identified as Shane Tamura of Las Vegas. Authorities say he had a documented history of mental illness. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says he had a note blaming the NFL for a brain injury that the suspect said he suffered from. Joining me now is Kirk Burkhalter, former NYPD detective. Welcome, Kirk. Good morning. This is the deadliest mass shooting the city has seen in quite some time. 4 people dead, including an off-duty officer. Your initial thoughts on what happened?
Good morning. My initial thoughts are just totally unexpected and somewhat bizarre. First, you have the gunman walking across this small plaza into the building, holding the rifle down at his side. But we don't start seeing 911 calls until after he entered the building. Perhaps people are just too involved on their cell phones and so forth to notice what's going on, or perhaps it's just New York City and people are used to seeing bizarre sights. So that's really odd. And the second is that this man drove over 2,500 miles across the country, some 40 hours or so, with the weapon he ultimately used and other handguns and ammunition. So when you talk about a premeditated and deliberate attack, he had plenty of time to reflect on his actions. And clearly he was extremely motivated, and he drove across the country like a guided missile, double parked in front of the building in this midtown crowded area and walked right in. Probably had no intent on ever leaving and certainly anticipated his death. There was a note even where he left his brain to be examined. So it's just a horrible event.
Now, an off-duty police officer was killed, reportedly while working as security in that building. How common is it for NYPD officers to be assigned as security in these situations? And are there any particular protocols that they follow in a situation like this?
So this is quite common. About 25 years ago, the New York City Police Department started this paid detail program where police officers were authorized to work specific forms of off-duty employment, where outside entities would hire police officers to do this. They're all over the city. However, police officers working and doing security and other jobs has gone on for quite some time. My father is a retired sergeant, and he worked off-duty employment jobs doing security to help put my brother and I, who's a retired police officer, through college, and to buy holiday gifts and to take us on vacations. So while the police department does pay well, it is a civil service job, and no one's going to get rich doing it. So it's quite common. This officer is still a police officer. There is no protocol where if someone is working off duty, they don't abide and don't have the same responsibilities. And as a matter of fact, that's why a business entity would hire a police officer off duty, because they're going to appear in uniform and they are getting a New York City police officer. And it's so unfortunate that he was doing this to supplement his income. And basically that uniform made him a target for the gunman when he entered the building.
This shooting has some element of premeditation, as you mentioned. The person traveled to the scene. There was an element of being disgruntled possibly there with the NFL. Does this bring to mind at all the shooting in New York late last year of the CEO of United Healthcare?
Oh, it most certainly does. You have, and there are other shootings we can point to that are similar. And, a common thread is some party that has some grievance or feels that some business entity aggrieved them, harmed them, and they seek some type of retaliation. And also, the fact that this is just completely unreasonable. In some way, shape, or form, we blame the NFL for his traumatic head injuries, if it turns out that he did have them. But that's unreasonable. He played, at best, it sounds like high school football and had no association with the NFL. So, yeah, there are certain similarities, the premeditation, the planning, the laying in wait, and just the dedication to achieving their purpose. The one difference is, of course, Luigi Mangione intended to elude capture. It appears here that this shooter had no intention of eluding capture.
A lot of questions, certainly, that will need to be answered as this investigation unfolds. Kirk, thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate your time and insight.
Certainly.
That's Kirk Burkhalter, a former NYPD detective and law professor.